I'm the RyKno, Ryan Knowles. Here with me, as always, Big John Caldwell. And
Howdy, howdy.
Big John, this was a tough one to take. ASU gets run over by the UCLA Bruins in Tempe last Saturday night, and we'll break all that down for you. As we like to say here on RWD, you give us 30 minutes, we give you the world of Sun Devil football, and we'll certainly try to do that for you here tonight, maybe even a little more than 30 minutes. As we talk ASU football, we'll certainly be covering the ASU game as ASU fell down 35-10 early in the third quarter against the Bruins, battled back to within 6 points in the fourth quarter, but ultimately defense couldn't hold up their end as the Devils lose 50-36 to the Bruins. We'll certainly cover all that, cover everything with that game. We'll also be talking our hot topic of the week, Sean Aguano's odds at getting the head coaching job. Does he need wins to legitimize his claim on the permanent head coaching job at ASU? We'll certainly get into that. And we'll also preview ASU's game in Pullman, Washington against the Washington State Cougars, who are, they're playing some good ball right now. Definitely going to be a tough test for ASU. They'll be battling both the Cougars and the Elements up there in the Palouse this coming weekend. But we'll start with the Devils' battle with UCLA at Sun Devil Stadium this past weekend. Devils fall to 3-6 overall in the season, 2-4 in conference. And Big John, you got to start with the Sun Devils' defense because they did not come to play. Bottom line, they got. I said that in the opener, they got run over, and that was the literal truth in this game.
Yeah. Well, they were hit with the flu bug real hard, and starters literally couldn't go. Guys like Norman Lott could not go past the first series. So they were already thin, and they got even thinner as the game went on.
Yeah, I remember I had to leave early because my lady friend wasn't feeling well, right around mid third quarter. But I did hear on getting some stuff on the radio, that some other guys that were a little further down on the depth chart were getting in there. Rivera Harvey was one guy. Another one was Bamad Miller, who hadn't seen a ton of snaps this year.
Miller
forced into play.
Miller really came to ball for that one series. He
had a couple nice plays, which is good to see them. Even though they were down, they were still playing hard. They weren't getting down on themselves. Yeah, it was rough to take. The Bruins went over 400 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns on the ground. Devils only got off the field twice on third down the whole night. They forced two punts, but on the plus side, they did recover their first fumble of the season. They were the last FBS team, without a fumble recovery on the season. So that was good to see them do that.
It was nice to see that the very first play of the game they intercepted too, and got themselves in the deep into territory pretty quickly, and they capitalized on it. It's one thing to pick up a fumble or get a pick, but to actually capitalize and get points out of it is what you really want to see.
Yeah, they got a field goal out of that, which was that was good to see. It's certainly we kind of thought it might set the tone for the rest of the game. Unfortunately, they weren't able to slow down that UCLA rushing attack, which is really weird because the Bruins really did it without their top rusher, Zach Charbonnet, who was dressed for the game, but it sounded like he was dealing with an arm injury or something. He had his arm picked up. And,
he was there.
He just couldn't go.
Yeah, he was suited out. He was on the sideline. I kept an eye on him all night, trying to see what. And it was some kind of old lingering injury. And I guess they have a feel. In talking to some of the dads, their parents afterwards, they act like they might even keep him out this week again too.
Oh, so well, but UCLA didn't miss a beat without him. Yeah. I mean, they basically lined up some converted wide receivers and just were able to go to town on that ASU defense. Kashmir Allen had 137 yards rushing. He averaged 12.5 yards a carry and a touchdown.
How about Bobo?
Keegan Jones almost went over 100.
Jones, right.
He had a touchdown run. So did Colson Yankoff.
Yeah.
I don't even know if he had a carry before this game. And then Dorian Thompson-Robinson, that kid needs to hurry up and graduate because he had another big game against ASU. 10 carries, 120 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground, another 2 through the air. Man, that kid was just unstoppable. Can we get him out of Brentwood already?
I mean,
he just seems to kill the Devils every time he plays them.
And he has insult to injury with his hurdles too.
Oh yeah, that was the Pac-12 kind of network's moment of the week too. That long run that he had where he hurdled I know one guy, he spun out of another tackle. It was just an insane run.
Yeah,
you know it's going to show up on highlight reels.
We had the one where he stopped and changed direction.
Yeah,
did like a 360 reverse.
He made ASU's defense look silly at times.
Yeah.
But the offense was certainly a bright spot. It was great to see them battle back after being down by 25 in the third quarter. Trenton Bourguet had himself another nice game. 38 of 49, 349 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did have that one interception, but still
that was
another strong game for him.
Inconsequential, and, that was at the very end of the game.
That was really good to see him, continue to play well even under tough circumstances. I mean, UCLA was kind of pinning their ears back and coming after him quite a bit, especially when it was, ASU was in chase mode and trying to come back from such a big deficit. But they did end up making it a game. I mean, they could have packed it in and just said, hey, this wasn't our night. We're gonna go home. They actually legitimately tried to come back and ultimately did. They just weren't able to kind of close the deal there.
Badger had the human highlight reel growing ever bigger every week.
Yeah, he had another nice game. That great one-handed touchdown reception that he had in the third quarter was great to see. Another strong game from him. Valade, even though he didn't go over 100 yards on the ground, still had 2 rushing touchdowns and was a force in the receiving game. Those 10 receptions for 89 yards. And then Elijah Badger, of course, 8 receptions for 83 yards. And then, we talked about Trenton Bourguet. He just seems to get better and better each week. And this was another strong game for him. 75. His average through his, I think, 4 games and 3 starts now. He has a 75% completion percentage, which is number 1 in the nation for quarterbacks with more than 100 passing attempts.
Mm-hmm.
Good for him. Great kid. We have nothing but good things to say about him as a person, certainly. And just great to see him kind of step in the way he has, take command of this offense, and make it a legit scoring threat.
I love the way the team responds to him and how the linemen are giving him just enough time. That 2.5, 2.7 seconds.
He does hold on to the ball a little long, but with some of the long developing plays that they have running. But he, even when he gets hit, it's a tough dude. He gets right back up.
Boy, he took a couple of shots.
Gets ready for the next play. So
that beautiful 4th down play where he checked off to the right and threw back to Swinson on the left.
That was a great play call. I'm going to give that one to Iguano. I mean, it was executed perfectly.
Yeah, it was.
But it was an excellent play call. And you see, I mentioned this during pre-show, you see everybody run that play. That tight end throwback, that's a classic. Especially
high school play.
In the red zone. Yeah, you'll see everybody roll out to the right and then the tight end sneak out to the left. And you just throw it back to him, and he's usually open unless you get a linebacker or somebody staying home on that side. But that rarely happens. It's usually open, especially on a 4th down when the defense is pinning their ears back trying to get off the field. But so really a nice play call and a great execution by the Sun Devils.
Well, I think
and that play to get their first touchdown.
And because you're seeing Iguano be the play caller, I think he's got nothing to lose right now, and the going for it on 4th down is crowd pleasing. The fans love it, and it's working.
And I think he kind of see the writing on the wall a little bit with the way the defense was playing. He felt like he needed to get his team a shot in the arm a little bit to get them going. And coming away with 6 on that drive, I think was very important to him.
We talked about it last week. We knew there was going to be a boat race, and you cut the way it was shaping up. You kind of thought, all right, team with the ball maybe got the ball last might win, but it wasn't quite like that. But clearly, you needed in a game like that where your scores, everybody's scoring on each other's defenses. You gotta create turnovers. You gotta make turnovers to get the ball to get more opportunities.
I kind of thought the team with the most stops would end up winning, and ultimately the team that did end up happening. But yeah, I mean, you still gotta score when you get the ball, and take advantage of your opportunities. And I think ASU's offense has certainly done that. And as we always do here on Runnin with the Devils after a loss, we'll talk about what we learned. Presented by Flagstar Bank. For all your mortgage needs, check out xllendingteam.com. And for me, the defense, we posed that this was our hot topic question last week.
Yeah.
Is the defense a concern after that performance against Colorado? And I think it is. It is a concern right now with this lack of depth. You mentioned the flu kind of going through the locker room now, especially
it's
on the
not
defense.
over. Yeah, it's not over either.
Their depth is definitely being tested, and all these running lanes that are opening up for teams right now is a problem. You got to be able to stop the run first and foremost against most teams. They're going to try to run on you, and if they can, they're going to keep doing it until you stop them. And
right.
ASU's got to find some kind of mix. They might have to go a little deeper into into the depth chart a little bit. Try to find some guys who can step up and are going to play hard and pick up the slack for guys who aren't feeling 100% right now. But one good thing is the team is playing hard for 4 quarters, regardless of the score. You certainly didn't see, even when they had gone over 400 yards, you didn't see anybody on the ASU defense quit. You didn't see them just dogging it. You didn't see them, making business decisions out there. They were playing hard for 4 quarters on both sides of the ball. Absolutely. Regardless of the score. They got down, but they weren't out when they were down 35-10. And they still battled back and made it a game in the 4th quarter. And hey, one more stop, we could be talking about a completely different game right now. So this is, it's an encouraging sign that the team is playing so hard under Coach Sean Aguano for 60 minutes, all 4 quarters. They're getting after it with as much passion as they are.
And as sick as they were, you got to give them credit. But I think I went to practice today, and we're still suffering from. There's still flu going around. Now it's coaches.
I hate to see that, and a lot of times you'll see that with your coworkers or whatnot when the weather changes the way it has, and well, it's been raining. It's been kind of wet and dry and raw out. It's tough to adjust to for some people.
It's the suppressed immune systems of everybody right now from being locked up for 2 years, not having your normal bacterial flora. Because I understand the kids in grade school really have it, really going around hard. Yeah. That's because, but again, they haven't been exposed to any bacteria practically at all for 2 years. So anyway, injuries and flu will take its toll, and it will. And when you're not deep, it's going to make it even worse. But our lack of ability to really generate a consistent rush and inability to contain to the outside, we really was concerning. Not that Wazoo is going to run much, especially they don't have a running quarterback. But you've got 2 schools coming, Oregon State and the Rats, who do run. And then the dumb penalties seem like they've come back and hurt us in a couple drives. Some of the personal fouls, the one on Bethley where he had tackled the man and he literally, as he's getting up, he pushed off on his body real hard. They're going to call that. They see, don't think they don't see it. I know it got chippy down near the end. There was a lot of chippiness in the 4th quarter. You might have been gone by then, right? But there was some stuff.
Yeah, but I did hear about that on the radio, and I was like, I literally yelled out, "You got to be smarter than that."
Oh yeah,
and that's the truth. I mean, I know it was kind of a ticky tack kind of thing, but Bethley, I mean, he's gotten called for a few of those personal fouls after the whistle now.
Yeah, and they're dumb.
You can't get that reputation because referees are going to look at that. They're going to watch you, make sure that you're not doing anything after the whistle that they can flag you for.
Yeah.
So you just have to be smarter than that, especially when the game is still in doubt, still up in the air.
What it was and what it is, you got to be careful of, and teach this to your kids, parents, if you're listening. If you can't let what happened a play or two before beat you again, and that's what was going on. Yeah, you got to turn the page.
You can't carry that with you. You got to.
That's right.
Beat them on the field. Beat them on the scoreboard. Don't try to.
What it was escalating.
Try to get a cheap shot in.
Yeah, the chippiness was escalating until the personal foul started flying. So, where are we? We're up to hot topic now, right?
Our hot topic of the week. We talked about, after hearing him speak on Thursday at Dave & Buster's, we were, kind of discussing what his chances were at getting the head coaching job. And, I think that he needs, a couple wins or so to really legitimize his resume to getting the permanent head coaching job.
Yeah.
And John, I pose this to you. Are wins a necessity? Do you think he has to win at least one of these final 3 games to really have a legitimate shot at the head coaching job?
Yes, you have to show consistent improvement, and W's are a great way of measuring that. I think between the three last games, I think 2 of the 3 would really help cement this thing. But remember, there's another thing on top of this, and that is if there's no letter of accusation from the NC2A, you're going to have a very limited group of candidates of potential coaches to choose from, and you may have no choice because there's no a Matt Rule or a big name is not going to come without knowing exactly what they're facing. Coach Iguano, if anybody knows what's coming down the pike next and is not afraid or knows what's happening, it's Coach Iguano. He's not deterred by any of this, and like I say, he may well just wind up backing into the job, and you have to offer him at least a 2-year to 3-year deal to look like you're not using
the shortest deal I've ever heard of is a 3-year deal with the team the school option for a 4.
Right. And you don't want to appear as if that you're just
nobody's going to even no matter if this is his dream job. I can't see him taking such a short-term deal as a 2-year contract. So to really make it legitimate and really give him a chance and at least show a little faith in him. If you decide he's the way to go, you got to give him minimum 3 years.
And I think if Crow makes that decision, it's clearly Crow who's in the driver's seat here making the decision. You have to say to him, and you have budget to go get good coaches, some good coordinators and good position coaches. No more analysts who are filling in as position coaches. Right. No more GAs that have been elevated to a position coaches suddenly. I think
before they're ready.
Right. You can't let Iguano. You can't set up a series of conditions for him to fail. Without change, you have to change something if you're going to. If so, my point is, if you keep him, you have to change some things too. Allegedly, as I mentioned, there's a booster on the sidelines who will come in big time if Iguano gets the job, and I'm sure that money will be set aside for 2 things: coaches and recruiting purposes.
Yeah, and that's something that that Michael Crow has made a point of, that with their next coaching hire, they will put more money into the program going forward. Right. So making a commitment to the program, not just leaving it out there to dry, I think is definitely a step in the right direction for the president. Hopefully he follows through when the time comes.
Yeah.
So
I know
it remains to be seen. I still think that he is going to need to win at least one of these next 3 games to have a legit shot, preferably the U of A game. Certainly, I think that definitely feeds into his momentum and definitely gives him something positive to build on going into the off season.
Yeah. Let's not kid ourselves. There's U of A is not the U of A we thought they were going to be at the beginning of the season. There's parts of their game that have gotten pretty good. They don't have all the athletes to beat us. I think we still out-athlete them, but they're better.
Assuming we're healthy, yeah.
Yeah, but no, you're saying 1 of 3. I think 2 of 3 might be the right number
for him to get the 2 of 3. I felt like they needed to split going into UCLA in order for him to have a legitimate shot. But if the team is competitive, they don't get blown out in any of these next 3 games, hopefully wins at least 1. I think that might be enough for him.
I mean, it comes
for the job, especially if there's no letter from the NCAA as far as the accusation.
Right. And it's a game of inches, folks. I know you maybe you're tired of hearing that, but if Ziplicki turns the laces out and Brown makes the field goal at Stanford, not only do we win that game, but this changes the whole calculus of who's going to be the starter the next week. I mean, eventually, I think Emery would be found, with the lack of movement of the ball, that he had to go. But I do think you get that W, that changes the whole calculus of how many wins he needed to have to get a legitimate look as being the coach. So it's a game of inches, man.
Yeah, and we'll see how these next 3 weeks play out. We'll certainly, break down every aspect of this going into the off season. This is the big question right now. What's ASU going to do with their head coaching position going forward? That's what everybody's eyeballs are on. Everybody's got an opinion about this. We're just trying to give you ours, and from what we've seen and what we've heard, this is kind of where we stand. With 3 weeks left to go, 3 games left to go in the season.
I tell you, practice was spirited today. Everybody's running hard. There's discipline. They're all there on time. They've got people making sure they line it up properly, and if they don't line up properly, they do something stupid, and as far as a dump out, they run it again.
They run it again, yes, and that I think that's a big thing. The fact that they are committed, and they are, listening to head coach Aguano. I think they bought in.
Yeah.
Just some more than others probably, but the fact that they have been able to, have a modicum of success under an interim head coach, I think is a positive sign.
Yeah.
Hopefully they continue to build on that, and that'll translate into at least a couple wins.
And one thing that Coach told me last night at the radio show was, we have our quarterback for the rest of the season. There's no reason to make a change. That's a big step in the
right direction, certainly.
Well, it is.
Certainly, he's definitely earned it. So
yeah, that, and they know the scheme, what the game plan is going to look like, what they can do.
Hopefully their identity, I think, is something that we talked about early in the season. And when they had a couple of the offensive linemen on a couple of weeks ago, they talked about being a running team,
right?
Running team first and foremost. It's just everybody's kind of stacked up to take away the run, that they've had to pass a little bit more, and then getting into a big hole. This past week they kind of had to throw the ball more, and but I think Trenton Bourguet is up to the task. That's the big thing. I was a little bit concerned about them putting so much of their of so much pressure and so much expectation on him when he's only started a handful of games now. Can he handle it? I think he can. I think he can, not just, manage the game, but legitimately go out there and win it for them, if called upon.
I think he's
certainly capable of that.
I think you probably saw another dimension of Trenton in this last game, that he can run.
Yeah.
He took off
when he needs to, and it's there. If there's a running lane, he's got an opportunity. Yeah, he'll tuck it and run. I think that's also something else that I think has to be a threat. And the fact that he's able to do that, I think that's just another wrinkle that's going to help this offense continue to move the ball.
That's right.
So hopefully we'll see more. Hopefully we'll get a better idea of where we're at in the coming weeks when it comes to Coach Aguano's chances at the permanent position. But now we turn the page to the Washington State Cougars. Wazoo so far this season, 5-4 overall, 2-4 in the Pac-12. They started out very, very well. And head coach Jake Dickert, who was an interim coach himself last year when Nick Rolovich was fired right before the ASU game.
That's right.
And we were his first game as the head coach in Tempe.
They rallied.
The team has definitely bought in, and they played very, very well under him. And there were a lot of questions in Pullman about what the team would look like, especially with the transfer of Jaden DeLora to Arizona. They lost a couple guys, including their all-everything running back Max Borghi. And their backup Deion McIntosh. So we weren't sure how they were going to be able to run the ball, what they were going to do, but they've really responded. And as you look at Jake Dickert here, he certainly has. It's his first full season, as we mentioned, after that promotion at the end of last year. He had this team coming out of the gate very, very hot. They went up to Madison and beat the Wisconsin Badgers. As you
They
look
do.
at their schedule.
And he last year he finished the season when he came in. He finished at 3-4 himself, and that was enough. 7 games, 3 wins to get him the job. So going back to the Iguano calculus, that was good enough for Wazoo, 3-4. But it was the fact that the way they were playing, the kids really rallied around really hard for them.
They kind of circled the wagons and bought in to what Coach Diggert was selling.
Mm-hmm.
And it's carried over to this year. They played very, very well. They started out 4-1. They've kind of gotten outclassed a little bit by some of the heavy hitters in the Pac-12.
Right.
But I mean, they played Oregon close. They hung with Utah.
That was a shootout.
That was, and their offense hadn't really played all that well for the most part. I mean, they put up 41 against Oregon. They put up 38 against Colorado State, which was to be expected. But they hadn't really had that breakout game. Well, they did last week against Stanford. They did have a defensive score in that game, but the offense definitely came to play and the offense put up 45, but they ultimately ended up beating Stanford in Palo Alto 52-14.
It's a lot of points. They
very
won
impressive win for them.
Yeah.
And as I said, they had that 3-game losing streak against some of the class of the conference, but they're still playing very, very well. This is a very tough team. And, going into Pullman, it's a hostile environment. I mean, it's a small, kind of intimate college football venue. If you've never been there, it only holds about 33,000 people. Mm-hmm. So, and they're right on top of you. There's not much sideline.
No.
There's not much sideline space there. They are, practically right on top of you, and they get loud in that stadium for sure. Yeah. And plus, it probably won't get above 40 degrees.
No.
There, even though it's an afternoon game, it's still going to get pretty cold.
39. Windy.
Yeah,
cold.
ASU has not won in Pullman since 2013.
That's right.
So I mean, they don't play the Washington State every year, but that's still something that I think you'd like to snap. Since I remember that game Halloween night in 2013, I know that they'd like to get back in the win column against the Cougars, certainly.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I look at the fact that they had a gauntlet part of their season,
right?
And they won the game. They got the ship righted again, and now they must be. I think they're probably going to be feeling pretty good about themselves coming into this game. And
after beating Stanford last week 52-14
on the road, on the road,
yeah, and that's that is not exactly a hostile environment in Palo Alto.
No, but a road game is still a road game. And
it's still tough to win. It's still tough to win on the road in the conference.
That's correct.
Don't let anybody tell you different. Regardless of who's playing, it's certainly never an easy thing to go into somebody else's building and win, let alone by 28 points.
Yeah.
Or 38, excuse me. So that was very impressive win, and you have to think this offense might be hitting its stride with a game like that. So definitely got to keep an eye out on that. This isn't really the Washington State juggernaut offense you've probably seen in the past. I mean, they're putting up some points. They average 27 points a game, but they're not throwing the ball all over the yard. They can certainly do that, but they've been a little bit more balanced with the fact that their defense has played so well. They've forced a lot of turnovers, and that's kind of keyed the offense at times this year. I mean, they're only passing for 266 yards a game, 377 overall, but they can still move it when they need to. And a big reason why is their quarterback, Cameron Ward, the incarnate Word transfer. Don't let the small school fool you. He plays like a Power 5 quarterback. He's averaging 65% completion, 2,360 yards on the season, 19 touchdowns. Has thrown 8 interceptions, so he is prone to mistake a little bit. He isn't considered a dual threat quarterback, but he hasn't really burned it up on the ground somewhere this year. He's only got about 35 net rushing yards so far.
Right.
But he does have 3 rushing touchdowns, so he can get out of the pocket and move, and they'll use his legs as a weapon when they need to. So definitely got to keep an eye out for him. He's certainly not the athlete that DTR is, but he can get out and run a little bit.
Do you remember when the Pirate was in the air raid?
Yes.
I could have sworn. I think they at one. I remember one game they threw 77 times.
Sounds about right. I mean,
That's crazy, man.
I mean, they'll throw it quite a bit. I mean, they're only throwing about 40 times a game. This isn't a true air raid where they're the old Hal Mummy, throwing the ball 50 times a game on average. They're only throwing it. They'll throw it about 40 times a game, but they're still trying to work in the rushing attack a little bit.
Right.
Keep teams a little more honest, be a little more balanced, and with a running back like Nakia Watson, you have the opportunity to do that because he has stepped in this year. He was the third string back last year after transferring from Wisconsin, but this year he's kind of become the lead back and has played extremely well. 80 carries, 491 yards, 3 touchdowns on the season. Has been a good receiving threat too. 15 receptions, 177 yards, 2 touchdowns through the air. And then they'll spell him with Jalen Jenkins, who's kind of come in and become the third down back as a true freshman. 47 carries, 306 yards, and a touchdown on the ground. And but through the air is where he's become more of a threat. 13 receptions, 98 yards, 2 touchdowns for him. So this two-headed back, this two-headed attack on the running back position has really paid off for them. They'll work both these guys in there. You may even see that pony formation. It seems to be very popular in college football right now with the two running backs line up with the quarterback in the backfield. Both these guys are more than capable of carrying this team, especially with the way ASU's rush defense has played. I fully expect the Cougars to test that ASU front seven right off the bat.
Sure, I would.
And then going, if John could go back, the leading receivers, obviously, we talk about Washington State and the air raid. You got to talk about their receivers, and Dejon Stribling. It's kind of become their top target this year. 36 receptions, 448 yards, 5 touchdowns, but they'll certainly spread the ball around. Got a lot of guys on this team with a lot of receptions. Robert Farrell, 36 receptions, 406 yards, 3 touchdowns. And then you go on down the line of this receiving core. They don't really use a tight end much except as a blocker. But as you look at the rest of these receivers, Donovan Ollie, he's another guy that they're in. Bernard Bell is another one. And then you look at some of these other ones. Ryan Peters, he had a great game against Stanford. Then you got Lakin Smithson and Lincoln Victor are a couple other guys as well who have made contributions. Again, they'll spread the ball around quite a bit. Ryan Peters had 3 catches for 50 yards and a touchdown against Stanford. Robert Farrell had 3 for 41. Leighton Smithson had 3 for 25. Stribling had 4 catches. So, I mean, they'll spread the ball around. They actually ran the ball extremely well against the Cardinals, so they didn't really have to throw it as much. But I fully expect them to put it in the air against ASU, especially if it's a close game. And then the Washington State defense has been much better this year. That was always kind of the indictment on Washington State in years past. They could put points on the board, but they couldn't really stop anybody. They're stopping people this year.
New coaches. Yeah, they brought a lot of guys in from a lot of coaches come in from Wyoming.
That's right. And they've, kind of become more of a nickel-based team. And with their, like a lot of teams in college football, you see so much spread now. But they'll play mostly with 5 defensive backs, and that's paid off for them. But the 2 linebackers have just been balling out for them. These kids are great athletes, and when they drop them into pass coverage, these guys can make plays. They're doing it all over the field, making really filling up that stat sheet. And it starts with their linebacker Diane Henley, the Nevada transfer, who was a wide receiver at Nevada, converts to defense and transfers to Washington State, and he's having a great year.
Found a home.
Tackles is most on the team by far. He has 27 more tackles than the next closest defender. 11 of those for loss. 4. He also leads the team in sacks with 4. He's also got an interception, 2 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries. So this guy, he's a ball hawk. He can get after it for sure.
Nice. Found a home, huh?
Yeah. And then Francisco Mauigoa, the other linebacker, He's also filling in. He's also playing extremely well. Maui Go is actually the middle guy. Henley's on the weak side,
right.
and Maui Go 45 tackles, 5.5 for loss, 3.5 sacks, an interception, and 3 forced fumbles. These guys definitely get after it. They punch at the ball. They do a lot of different things. They're active out there for sure. So
they blitz and they bring backers.
They are very, very aggressive.
Yes.
So
and you're going to see that in this game.
There's going to be some max protect by ASU. They're going to have to watch out because these kids, guys will definitely pin their ears back and come out.
We're talking 7-8 in the box coming up and putting pressure on, and maybe even a safety coming up now and then to get pressure. But yeah,
the safeties have some sacks themselves this year. They really pin their ears back, come after. They bring everybody. And another guy they'll use in a lot of different ways is their nickel corner, Armani Marsh, who plays in the slot. 51 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, and 4 pass deflections.
Impressive.
He's another guy who's just been all over the field. They'll use him in a lot of different ways. They'll blitz him off the edge. Just definitely somebody when you line up, you gotta know where he is because he can make plays when you give him the chance. And then up front, their edge, Brennan Jackson, is having himself a nice year. 31 tackles, 8.5 for loss, 3 sacks. A couple of passes defended on the, at the line. He's another one, you bring him off the edge and he can get after you if you're not careful. So his offensive line's got to, definitely got to bring their A game because this team, they're a legit defense. They forced a lot of turnovers this year, and that certainly keys their offense. So you got to take care of the ball, not give them extra opportunities because they'll take advantage.
Mm-hmm.
And their corner, Chow Smith Wade, has been playing really well as well. 5 pass defended and 3 forced fumbles. Like I said, these guys, they'll knock that ball out. You don't put it away, right? Just hopefully that's something that ASU's got to do is protect that football. Because these guys, they're ball hawks. They'll get after it. They'll punch it. They'll do whatever they have to get the ball out. That's really been coached into them now, and they're a turnover machine so far this year.
Yeah, in practice they were a lot of drills in the developmental stage where they're
ball
using
security. Yes.
Well, it was punching gloves, boxing gloves, trying to punch balls out on sticks and lots of drills to hang on the balls properly.
Yeah, definitely going to need that. And then our keys to the game this week presented by the Valley Athletic Booster Club. To support local athletics, check out valleyathleticboosterclub.com. For me, this game is brought to you by the letter D. The defense has got to step up. They really got worked by UCLA over the weekend. This is an opportunity for them to get right. I know that they're struggling with
injuries
flu and with the depth, their depth getting tested, but they've got to step up and get at least 5 stops in this game. They got 4 against UCLA. You got to get 5. 5 stops. I think you give your offense a chance to legitimately put enough points on the board to win this game. That doesn't mean turnovers, just punts. Even if you force 5 punts,
right.
I think you get the ball back for your offense. With the way Bourget has this offense running right now, you hold up your end, you give the offense a chance to put points on the board and give yourself a good chance to win this game. So that's to have a puncher's chance. I think that's what you need is 5 stops. And then on offense, keep Bourget clean. The offensive line really needs a get right game. I know they're struggling with no Ladarius Henderson. He's kind of the glue, and they're still struggling with shuffling guys around and trying to find a combination that works for everybody. But I think this is a game, as much as Washington State likes the blitz, they're going to need to bring their A game and really focus on keeping Bourget clean and not creating any turnovers. You keep him clean, you let him throw from a clean pocket. Odds are he's not going to turn the ball over. At least not very consistently. He's going to make good decisions with the ball when he has time and pick apart an opposing defense. So to me, the offensive line has got to step up and play well in this game.
Yeah, it's 3 seconds, but it's not 3 seconds reaching out here. It's 3 seconds up here, right? In front of you, keeping the man in front of you. So the technique has got to be proper, and that's all they're asking of him. I can tell you, that's all they're asking of him. Hold that block for 3 seconds, and do not make them. You got to move your feet. You cannot reach. So no, I think those are great valid points. Obviously the defense has got to, they've got to check their themselves here and draw the line and say that enough of the getting gash on running by
you can't
the way UCLA is
given allowing your the opposition 2 guys to average 12 yards a carry.
That's right.
It just can't happen.
No, it can't happen. And so for me, I see this as a game. I think the key is there's going to be adjustments. I fully expect Washington State is going to blitz and bring the house to start this, to kind of smash us in the mouth and establish a line of scrimmage. They're gonna do that, and of course we can, as you said, max coverage is the way you defend
max protection. Yes,
max protection is the way you stop that, and you maybe throw over the top. But once they back off, and now it's time to make another adjustment. So there's going to be a whole series of adjustments throughout this game, and I think it's going to be very personnel dependent, and getting our personnel in, seeing what they're doing, and spotting and making sure you got the right matchups to throw at them. And then the defense has got to start taking more risks. I mean, you got we're at that point in the season where you got nothing to lose, and you got to create
not the
something.
Worst idea.
I think you're going to have to. You're just going to have to get more. Donnie's going to be going to have to roll the dice. And you do that, and you succeed. 1 in every 4 times, and there's the turnover you're talking about. There's the stops you're talking about. If you want to create stops, that's how you're going to have to get stops. So it's all related. I agree. It's a matter of how many times you're going to get the ball.
Just got to generate some more pressure, I think.
Yeah. And
that would definitely help.
So the way to do that, I think, is is you're gonna have to start twisting and looping and bringing up a Jordan or somebody come up from behind and sneak up on you and put somebody else in the backfield.
Get a little more exotic, something. Something different.
We've seen flashes of it this year, right?
So those are keys to the game presented by Valley Athletic Booster Club. Again, to support local athletics, check out valleyathleticboosterclub.com. Now,
one more quick point.
Sure.
This is that time of the season where it's late in the year. Everybody's dinged up. All teams are dinged up right now, and this is where teams players have to figure out: are you injured or are you hurt? And I saw a lot of hurt guys who in some cases,
you injured guys trying to play through it too.
That's correct. And I saw some things that when I started talking to people today, I was like, holy crap, you got what? But you can see it in the way they run after a drill or something developmentally. These guys are all going. They all got heart. They're going to give it 100%. I do not. That's what I kind of love about what I'm seeing right now is that if you keep supporting this team, folks, is they're not giving up on things. Anyway,
we saw that against UCLA, right?
We're dinged up, but and I was shocked by the number of everybody's got an owie. Who's got a little something, a groin, a ham, a knee.
They're supposed to have owies.
And you ask them how they're doing, and they're like, no, it hurts, or something's wrong, Yeah. I mean, Giovanni Sanders has had the same bum ankle since he hurt it in Utah, and that poor kid's limping at times, but he can still run. He can still run well, but
there's a reason they're just having him do like underneath stuff.
There you go. That's right. Yep. He's not doesn't have that top end speed. He's not that breakaway guy right now. All right. So enough of injury.
All right. So our score predictions this week. That's actually Washington State that I'm picking to win 43-38.
Well, they might score 43 against who are they playing this week?
The way ASU's defense is playing,
yeah.
But and then John, ever the constant homer, he's got ASU pulling out the victory on the road.
Well, I saw in a lot of players' eyes today. The flame has not gone out. These kids are still fighting. They still really want to. They want W's. They're playing for each other. They're playing for each other.
That's why I think it's going to be close.
Yeah. So, I kind of see it like they don't quit. They get an opportunity at the end to win the game. So I'm calling for the upset,
Whether they take
36-35.
advantage of it or not, that remains to be seen.
Yeah.
But I do like that you're still riding with ASU, still not jumping off that bandwagon just yet.
We almost had it. I wouldn't be staying optimistic if it was a clear blowout against UCLA. The fact that we're in the game with enough time to win it still, had we gotten the ball back. And there was another cheap score in there, but yeah, you were down by 6 with 4 minutes.
Yeah, give yourself a chance. Yeah, you definitely give yourself a chance.
Yeah. Anyway, that's
yeah, and then so that'll do it. And 1:30 kickoff local time on the Pac-12 network. ASU 8-point underdogs. We both have them covering, so hopefully it will be a close game. I definitely take the over on that 59.5. I think that's going to be.
I think that's
without a doubt.
That's a good bet. Over.
Yeah, I think ASU definitely, with the way they've been able to move the ball and with the way their defense has struggled, I think this is going to be a bit of a shootout. Even though Washington State's defense has played as well as it has, I still like ASU to put some points on the board and at least give them, like I said before, give themselves a puncher's chance to come away with a victory. I'm not picking them to win. That doesn't mean I'm not rooting for them, certainly.
Right.
So that'll do it for us. Say goodnight. Go Devils. Castrate the Cougs. Let's get a road victory.
Go Devils.